Hand from the pit. The first thing Elias lost was his shadow. It peeled away from his heels at the mouth of the pit, clinging to the stone like a reluctant child. He watched it flatten, thin, then vanish as the opening breathed him in. The air below was cold without wind, heavy without weight, and it smelled of extinguished candles and old prayers. He did not look back. They called this place the Holding, the antechamber between endings. Not hell, not heaven, but the long corridor where souls waited to be sorted, sifted, and sometimes forgotten entirely. Elias had learned its name from a priest who would not meet his eyes, who traced a shaking cross and whispered, "Love will not save you there." Love had already damned him. He was simply following it. The pit narrowed as he descended, steps carved by hands that no longer existed. Each step rang faintly, as though the stone remembered every footfall it had ever swallowed. Far below, a glow pulsed, dull amber, like embers under ash. He reached the first gate at what might once have been a chapel. Its doors were ribbed bone, bound with iron veins, no lock, no handle. Only a handprint pressed deep into the surface. Fingers splayed in silent pleading. Elias pressed his palm to it. The gate opened like a sigh. Inside, the souls stood in lines that did not move. They were not translucent or wailing as stories claimed. They looked unfinished, edges blurred, features softened, as though time itself had begun to erase them. Above each line hovered scales made of light and shadow, tipping endlessly, never settling. A figure approached, faceless but robed, its presence bending the air around it. "You are alive," it said, not accusing, not surprised. "I won't be for long," Elias replied. The figure tilted its head. "You seek one?" Who fell unweighed. Mara, the name trembled as he spoke it. He saw her as she had been, laughing at nothing, fingers ink-stained from letters she never sent, eyes too kind for the world that took her. She had died with guilt in her mouth, and forgiveness unspoken, and the Holding had claimed her. The figure extended an arm. Corridor opened, lined with doors that breathed softly like sleeping lungs. "You may walk," it said, "but you may not leave unchanged." Elias stepped forward. The deeper he went, the more the place learned him. Not as a thief learns a lock, but as rot learns wood, slowly and with intent. The air thickened, pressing against his thoughts, and the walls began to whisper his name in fragments, tasting the syllables before letting them fall away. Memories loosened from him, unmooring themselves, drifting upward like moths drawn to an unseen flame that promised warmth and delivered erasure. His childhood laughter slipped free first, a bright, careless sound that rang once down a side passage before being swallowed whole, as if the corridor had closed its mouth around it. He tried to follow the echo, to remember the moment it came from. Grass beneath his feet, scraped knees, the sun low and forgiving. But the image dissolved mid-thought, leaving only the faint ache of having once been light. Next went the smell of his mother's bread, warm and yeasted, the crust crackling beneath her hands. It unspooled from his mind in threads of steam, curling toward the ceiling before fading into nothing. What remained was hunger stripped of context, a hollow ache without comfort or origin, a need with no memory of ever being satisfied. With every step, something else slipped, the weight of Mara's head on his shoulder, the cadence of her breathing in sleep, the sound of his own voice when he said her name. Each loss dimmed the ambient glow of the Holding, shadows creeping closer. Yet his body felt curiously lighter, as though gravity itself were reconsidering its claim on him. His feet barely disturbed the dust now. His breath made no fog. The world's resistance softened, releasing him inch by inch, not violently, but with the patient cruelty of a place that knew he would not leave whole. By the time he reached the next descent, Elias was no longer entirely certain which parts of him were still his. Only that whatever remained was moving forward, because stopping would mean forgetting why he had ever begun. At the third descent, he felt something pull. A hand burst from the wall, ashen, cracked, fingers too long. It grasped his wrist with desperate strength. "Stay," the voice begged, crawling up from the stone. "If you remember us, we can remain." Elias pried himself free, skin tearing, blood darkening the dust. "I'm sorry," he whispered, and meant it. The hand withdrew, leaving a smear like an unfinished signature. By the time he reached the lowest chamber, He no longer cast a reflection in the shallow pools that dotted the floor. Mara stood at the center. She was kneeling before a scale that would not tip, her soul's weight suspended in cruel equilibrium. She looked smaller here, thinner, as if the place were drinking her slowly. When she raised her head and saw him, her eyes filled, not with hope, but fear. "You shouldn't be here," she said. "No, you'll disappear." Not all at once. He crossed the floor, every step costing him something he could not name anymore. When he reached her, he took her hands. She felt cold, not dead cold, but the chill of something paused too long between breaths. "The scales won't move," she whispered. "I tried to remember every good thing, every kindness. It isn't enough." Elias looked at the scales, then at the darkness pooled beneath them. "Then we'll add weight," he said. He reached into himself, not metaphorically, but truly, and pulled. The holding responded eagerly. His voice went first, unthreading from his throat like smoke. The words he wanted to say dissolved before reaching his tongue, but the scales shuddered. Next went his name. The memory of how it felt to be called to answer slipped away. The light tipped further. "Stop," Mara cried, tears streaking down her face. "Please." He smiled, though he could no longer remember learning how. "This is what love costs," he said, or thought, or meant. The difference no longer mattered. When the scale finally tipped, it did so gently as though relieved. The chamber shook. The robed figures turned their faceless gazes toward him. "She may go," they intoned. "You may not." Mara screamed as the light wrapped around her, lifting her upward, pulling her back toward breath and blood and pain and joy. Elias stood alone, or almost alone. From the wall where the first hand had emerged, another appeared, then another, dozens, hundreds, anchoring themselves in the fragments he had left behind. The holding did not forget him. When Mara awoke on the stone floor above, gasping air into burning lungs, dawn was breaking. She cried his name, though she did not know why it hurt to do so. Below, in the place where souls are weighed, something new lingered, a presence without a name, holding the door between worlds open, just wide enough for others to hope. Sometimes, when the pit breathes, a hand reaches up and waits.